everyone, I'm Katie. Welcome to my kitchen, where I take my 20 plus years as a home baker and my 8 plus years working in the industry as a professional pastry chef and teach you how to do things like make puff pastry at home so that you can create things like palmiers and Napoleons and tarte tatans. But if you know anything about puff pastry, you know about a process called lamination. Lamination with puff pastry requires a base dough with just flour, water, butter, a little bit of salt. You knead it until it's kind of elastic, and then you start doing turns and folds, right? You roll it out, you fold it, you chill it, you roll it out, you fold it, you chill it, and it creates these beautiful layers. However, not all of us have the time to do this process all the time. And strictly, it's not always necessary. So there's a method that you can use to create a really quick version of puff pastry in your food processor in 10 minutes with no resting, rolling, chilling, folding, turning, super fast, light speed. So in a food processor, we're going to be putting all purpose flour and a little bit of salt. And you can pre-pulse this if you would like to distribute that salt. I didn't in this instance. I had pre-mixed it in my flour before. And then cold butter in cubes. Um, this isn't a precise cube measurement, just cube it up. And what I like to do is cut my butter up first and then chuck it in the freezer for 10 minutes while I prep everything else. And then it's nice and cold. And once the flour and salt and butter are in there, we're going to pulse it until it looks like coarse breadcrumbs. So you see, I pulsed it a few times and I've still got some very large chunks. It's not ready yet. So we'll put it back in there and we're just pulsing. Pulse, 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 pulse. We don't want to just turn this on and let it go and risk it overworking, over mixing the butter into the dough. So this is coating our flour strands. It's giving us some butter. See that? It's still dry. It still looks dry, but it looks kind of like coarse breadcrumbs. Now, if I go and squeeze it together in my hand, it'll hold together but fall apart really, really easily. That's what we're looking for. And then we put in the second quantity of butter. All of the exact recipe quantities are going to be in the blog post linked in the comments below. So hop on over to the blog to do that. Now we're just going to pulse 3 times to incorporate the last part of the butter. So it's these 2 different size of butter chunks that are really going to help us with this flakiness that we're going for. Now we open up the lid and pour cold water, again, cold water, all over the top. And we're just going to pulse it until the flour is looking moistened and we're not seeing like wet bits. But we don't want to go too far until it comes into a full like dough ball because we don't want to overwork it. There's a lot of butter in this, so it's going to be difficult to make this pastry tough. Butter is a shortening agent. It shortens strands of gluten. So that's part of the reason why puff pastry is so tender is because there's so much stinking butter in it, shortening all those gluten strands. But we are going to just lightly flour the surface and dump all of that out. You're like, hey, lady, that doesn't look like a dough. That looks like a big puddle of dry bits and flour and stuff. Also, don't cut yourself on the blade, guys. But also, get all your dough off of there, much as you can. And yes, it does look like a big dry mess right now, and I'm sorry about the head in the camera view, guys. I'm still figuring out this whole recording while I'm doing thing. Um, so, but look how quickly it came together. I pressed it, I squeezed it, and it came together, right? If your dough is looking a tiny bit, if it's looking really dry and it's not coming together like this, you can just sprinkle, and I mean sprinkle, like a teaspoon of water. One of the keys to this is having like the exact right amount of water in here. Too much water, you get something that's sticky and tough. Too little water, you get a dough that just won't hold together. Because you need to control the gluten. We need enough gluten to hold this thing together, but not so much gluten that it's going to end up getting tough or springy. We don't want it to be shrinking and springing back either. So, little bit of flour, just to keep this from sticking too much. Now, if at any point this starts to become really soft and sticky when you're rolling it out, then chuck it in your refrigerator. Just wrap it in a single layer of plastic, put it in your fridge for about 10-15 minutes. Not enough to let it get hard, but enough to just keep the butter from getting sticky. So, we're now going to roll it out into a big, long rectangle, about 12 inches by 18 inches ish. Um, the beautiful thing about doing this, I like to call it Puff the Magic Pastry because it really is magical. um, I mean, literally magical. 10 whole minutes, even with measing out all your ingredients, which means like pre-measuring, getting all your ingredients ready, mise en place. Um, I like to just say measing out. So if you ever hear me say, let's mise out, some people say let's ploss out our ingredients. I say mise. That's just how I was raised in the pastry world, guys. So if you see this wonderful marbling effect we're getting, you can see the yellow bits after my head's out of the way. Sorry about that again. You can see all these yellow bits streaking through there. That is our butter that's going to start creating our layers. So, like I said, this will not be a traditional perfect puff pastry with perfectly even layers. This is going to be very similar, though. It's going to puff beautifully with all these chunks of butter. But also, this is the only lamination we're going to do is this single roll and fold. So I'm using my bench scraper there, which is 6 inches wide, to kind of just gauge how big this dough is getting. And I'm doing that because the 12 inches by 18 inches that I recommended is because that will get you to an even thickness of about a 1/4 inch. You don't have to be super precise with this, but I was just starting to get a really pointy end, so I just cut it off and re-glued it onto a side that was not as wide. But once we get to about the right size, 1/4 of an inch thick, we're gonna fold down the top 1/4 into the middle, fold up the bottom 1/4 into the middle so they kind of meet. This is called a book fold, and that's because that little area in the middle, where those two ends meet kind of becomes the spine of the book. Again, this is not about precision, guys. This is about quick and easy and fuss-free. No overly precise anything here except for your measurements. Just get a scale, guys. It's so much easier. So once I perform that book fold, that's it. We are going to wrap it in some plastic wrap, put it in the refrigerator for at least an hour, but you can actually make this up to 5 days in advance or even longer. You can double this batch, cut it in half, freeze half of it. And this is faster than going to the grocery store to buy the puff pastry with all of the, I don't even know what they put in that stuff, guys. Yeah, preservatives and colorings and whatever else is in that pastry. And you can use this for anything you would use a puff pastry for. I have made tarte tatin with it. I've made regular pies. I've made turnovers. What I'm going to be making with this one is a special birthday treat for my husband who just turned 40. And I'm going to turn it into a pathivier, which is a traditional puff pastry sandwich, basically. It's a free-form pie. But there you go. Puff pastry, 10 minutes in a food processor and done. I'm curious what you guys are going to make with it. There are so many options. Throw in the comments below. Go into the description section here and go to the blog post and get the method and the ingredient quantities and make it and tell me what you make with it. The blog is called Confessions of a Wayward Baker, because that's what I am. I am a wayward baker. And I would love to hear more comments, thoughts, ideas as to what I can do in this space, right? What are you struggling with? What do you want to see an easier way to get something done? You know, life is busy, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to do something fun and creative like baking. So let's make it work with us instead of against us. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day and enjoy your kitchen.